Hello and welcome to the show today, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And we are super excited to be introducing you to our guest today, Christopher David Mitchell. Christopher had life-saving surgery at 27 years old for treatment of ulcerative colitis and now lives with an ileostomy bag for the rest of his life. Now, Christopher told his health story journey online, which today has had over 4 million views. And he is now a transformational life coach who inspires people to overcome tough times and turn their trauma into the best thing that ever happened to them. So we are excited for this conversation. So welcome to the show, Christopher. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm so excited to connect with you. Seriously, it's going to be so great for my audience. I can't wait to share this out as well. I think even the chats we've had, Jonathan, like
Mm.
if I'd have had you back in the day, that would have been great.
I
Like
know, I remember
literally.
that conversation. It was just like amazing. And we're going to go deep into your story and everything. And I think it's anyone listening to this is going to get so inspired by this and it's going to really touch people who listen.
Fantastic.
Mm.
So, Christopher, I know there's already a story in that, so I'll let you kind of be the guide in just introducing yourself for us. So, for any of our listeners and our audience that perhaps don't know you yet, do you want to give people a bit of a background from your side?
Yeah, absolutely. So just the quick 3 minute summary is that, yeah, as Jonathan said, everything was going quite well in life. I was a singer. I did a few UK tours. I was a singer on like world cruises in America, did a West End thing, and suddenly got struck down with ulcerative colitis, which is a form of inflammatory bowel disease. Different to IBS, which is a bit milder. It's technically in the autoimmune disease category. And just went to the toilet, had some blood there. One thing went to the next, and then was with the doctors and with the surgeons, had to have my whole colon out. And this was at 27, so I would have been in that 27 club, literally. I would have died at 27 had I been around, say, 50 years ago when that operation wasn't even really happening. And we tried for several years to change it around. They can do what's called a J pouch, but unfortunately didn't work. And now, yeah, as Jonathan says, that sort of mentally difficult thing of accepting on your body like an ileostomy bag and how that changed everything in my life. And I think that, so as we know with like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, health is that base need. Basically, the first three needs transfers like health, wealth, relationships, basically. And everything gets shattered if your health gets shattered. My relationships went, my friendships went, my sexual life went, my finances went, my career went, my self-worth, my self-esteem, my self-confidence. So it was like a massive, massive transformational moment that I had to pick everything up from scratch again. It's like the pieces just scattered everywhere of my life, and I had to puzzle it all back together again. But in that was some beauty. And in that, I think I have built back better in terms of my own mindset. And now, as you say, coaching people towards that, it's really beautiful, really. It's that beautiful sort of self-expression of like the experiencing something firsthand and then being able to sort of, it's almost like sharing a part of yourself when you're in your coaching and helping others. And it's sort of it's a reminder of like a beautiful healing for me as well. Like when I see the change in others and where they were, exactly where I was. So that's the basics of the story and the journey. And in the midst of that, just to quickly say, I was a vocal coach as well. So when I got healthy again, initially I was a vocal coach. Then I put out that health video that you're talking about. And then I think we'll get into it. Everything changed. And then I was like, I can't be a vocal coach anymore. I have to help people with this.
Yeah. Listen, the health video that obviously Jonathan mentioned in the intro and you've just referred to there, I've literally just been watching that, and it's just such an inspiring journey. I was like in tears watching it, from a standpoint of feeling compassion for everything you've been through, but how you've then turned it around. It gives me goosebumps literally right now just thinking about it and saying that, because it's so powerful. And I love how you've shifted such a hard time, and that's pretty much very much an understatement, into something so beautiful that now you're able to serve, right, and to help other
Yeah.
people is so powerful. So anybody's watching, we'll obviously put a link into the show
Yeah.
notes to see that if you haven't already. But I'd love for you to perhaps just share how was it for you, just even creating that video and looking back at all of it and seeing how far you've come?
Oh, that video. I mean, it was a whole year's project. And what happened was I had this feeling, this idea. I started meeting people again after I'd got healthy, had the bag, body was starting to recover. I started meeting people again, friends, dates, etc., etc. And I just realized how much of myself I was hiding. Like that whole journey of the health, it probably took about, it was 2013, it all crumbled with the life-saving operation. And then I had a final, actually second life-saving operation, 2017. So it was a good 4 years, maybe 5 years. And I'd not told anyone that whole time. I'd not been putting it on Facebook. I'd not been tagging me in hospital. I didn't want the sympathy at the time of, oh, who are you and stuff like that. Maybe I was embarrassed, maybe there was shame, but I didn't tell hardly. I told a few close friends, obviously, and family, but that was it. So I think it grinded my gears a bit in the end, though, that everyone just thought I was just some lazy guy who just fallen off the wagon. And I think there was this need to be seen, this need to be heard. And it was funny because I came out of the hospital when I was healthy and I was unbelievable in my career as a vocal coach, as in how quickly I managed to build it, because I had all the fuel of the trauma, and some of it wasn't great fuel. Some of it was, you don't mind me saying, like FU fuel. You know, some of it was, you know, all the emotions of going through a traumatic experience fueled me wanting to do well in my career, wanting to be recognized again, wanting to be seen again after being on the sidelines of life for so long. And just to quickly say that I coached Boy George, who you know because you're Brits.
Yeah.
Everyone hopefully knows. But it was funny that I coached him at Wembley Arena, and after I did, I said to him, "Oh, I can tell it now." I mean, I'd had a few drinks, but I said to him, I can tell the story now. And it dawned on me that I wanted to tell it all along. I just didn't want it to be a sad story. And I didn't feel it was complete without that resolution of the fact that I came back and I did something. And when I was coaching Boy George at Wembley, I was like, I feel like I've got my life back. Like this is the moment when I feel like I could tell it now. So that's how it came about. But then even to try and do it, I remember asking like 10 of my closest friends, and I think about 6 of them said, don't do it.
Wow.
And I went to a counselor and he said, don't do it. So I had so many doubts, but then I realized they're just telling me that their truth of where they're at within their development and their consciousness.
Yeah.
And so I had to trust my intuition. It was really difficult.
There's so much power in sharing your story. Anybody listening to this that's experienced any kind of trauma or anything they feel like needs to be shared, part of them that perhaps they're hiding, it's essential to express, whether that's sharing your story in the way that you did through video, or whether that's writing, painting, telling your closest, you know, loved ones, whatever that is. I think that need to express is just our innate nature, right? It's a big part of who we are, and it leads to then the next thing, right?
Absolutely. It's just like exactly what you said, is when those people are telling you not to do it, it's their perception, or they wouldn't do it. It's not about you not doing it. And I think that's so important. When people tell you not to do things, is like, when I'm going to do this, don't do it. You're going to fail. It's going to be scary. It's like you're going to get people bringing you down. That's that person's perception of what they think is going to happen if they share their personal story, and it's nothing to do with you. So it's important, like, if you've got so many people telling you not to share something, that's a sign you've got to share it. If you've got so many people trying to hold you back and tell you don't do something, that's a sign to do it. And I think that's so important in life, is be that different, like be that difference, that 1% of people who steps out of the crowd and does what nobody else or most people won't do. Because that story, well, is clearly, you see from the views on YouTube, that story inspires people. And someone could be watching that and experiencing, it may be something similar, it may be something completely different, but they may be going through a traumatic experience in their life, and that story could be the one thing that makes them take action to find help and seek advice to get from where they are now to where they want to be.
exactly.
So the more you share, the more inspiration that you put out, and people will respond to that. But you will get more people who will try to hold you back than the opposite. But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That means you're on the right track.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And it's hard in those times to listen to that intuition,
Mm.
particularly when I'm scared myself.
Yeah,
Because it
absolutely.
runs through what will people say. And I'm going to be honest, I have had a few bad comments.
Mm.
99% of them are great
Mm.
in the comments section.
Yeah.
But I remember having ones back in the beginning was like, oh, I can't believe you live with that bag. If I was you, I'd just commit suicide. Like I had them comments, and it's difficult. And I think a lot of people just aren't prepared for that.
Yeah,
So you do have to
absolutely.
be prepared and you do have
Yeah.
to be strong. And the funny thing about that story is that people say, oh, why did you do it? I bet you did it
Mm.
for other. I bet you did it for other. And I said, it was 50-50. And I think a lot of decisions should be 50-50
Yeah.
personally. You don't want to be so selfish in your decisions, but also so self-sacrifice. But something like that is the best of both worlds. You can inspire others, but also it's a healing for yourself. And my shame, my embarrassment, all that went. I suddenly stepped
Mm.
into like being proud of who I was, and it gives you a sense of empowerment. I mean, it's that thing of what do you fear the most?
Mm.
And then someone says, oh, I could never get on the beach in a bikini or whatever. I was like, well, that's what you should do.
Yeah.
So it's like, what did I fear the most? Yeah, taking my top off in front of people. So what should I do in a video in front of millions? I should just take my top off.
It's funny. Literally, when I was watching that, I
Yeah.
said to John, I said he's actually in such better shape than
Mm.
the majority
Yeah.
as well, and given everything for that to be the case. Like it's just inspiring, and also the other thing about the video is it's just such a great reminder of how sacred life really is. And
Yeah.
I think when you then step into that moment and you put yourself in the spotlight and you really own who you are, well, I want to know the next part of the story. Tell us, like, what's happened since the video as well.
Well, the funny thing is, if I'd have been a bit more savvy at the time and realized how well that video was going to do or something, I would have said, hey, come join my new program or whatever, and it would have gone amazing. But I had no idea
Mm.
when I put it out that I was going to be a life coach. Absolutely no idea.
Mm.
It wasn't like a marketing thing at all. Hence why. So I finished the video. I felt this relief. But then I went on and I was still a vocal coach. And then I went on and I started a new music company, and we had a recording studio in London. And I went on my merry way and did other things for about a year. And then the comments kept coming in. I kept getting emails. One in particular, I remember a lady saying she was going to commit suicide, and she changed her mind because she saw my video. And it slowly just started dawning on me that I went from being inspired by the vocal coaches in the music world to the personal development coaches in the personal development world. I realized that personal development was the thing that changed my life, not music. And this sounds harsh, but it's really true, and I don't mind saying it. But this took a long time to realize that the vocal coach wasn't my life purpose, but I didn't know what else to do. I was ill. All I'd known was singing. It was the vehicle to get my life back on track, but it wasn't the thing. And there was a next level to go to. And as you say, when you tell you, I spoke to a guy who's a coach called Mark Matusik, and he helped me out a lot during this time. And he said, when you tell the truth, your story changes, and when your story changes, your life is transformed. And that was what happened slowly but surely. Like, it uncovered a more authentic me by telling the truth. And slowly but surely, but it took about a year, I realized that I wanted to be a quote unquote life coach and help people with that. But it really wasn't immediate. I think that's the lesson there. It wasn't like the next day. Great. It took about a year to really slowly think, oh God. And it was hard because I'd had success with the vocal coaching. So to leave that behind again on another, and again, everyone around me saying, what the hell are you doing, Chris? Again. So what are you doing? What's the wrong decision? Again, you've spent all this time and now you're a successful vocal coach and you're saying you're going to, thinking I'm crazy again. So that was the journey of it. Yeah.
Wow. Do you remember kind of the point, that pivotal moment, or was there a pivotal moment where you made that transition you made that decision thinking, I'm no longer going to be a vocal coach, I'm going to be a life coach? Was
Yeah,
that, yeah?
yeah. And I don't mind saying it again. It was it was on my first ever ayahuasca retreat
Nice.
that
No,
I did with Jean-Pierre de Villiers,
yeah.
Nice.
which he won't mind me saying either because he's talked about it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any experience with it or any knowledge, but basically it was a very heavy meditative plant medicine type retreat. And, you know, you start seeing your life from all angles. And I just had this innate feeling that there was a next level for me to go to, and the biggest change I can do for again, it was 50-50 for myself and for others. What is the biggest growth for me as a human being? It's stepping into this new phase, this new chapter, this new life coaching role. What is the biggest impact I can have? You just have all these premonitions at them very deep ceremonies, and you know, life flashes before your eyes again, and you really do. Well, sorry, I really did question things like, if I'm on my deathbed, what will I look back and think? Particularly when I practically was at 27, where I was. So, but no, it was, and I also did a meditation retreat that was just meditation out in Devon. And the woman there was really, really beautiful with me. And yeah, I said, I'm not sure whether I should do this new thing. And she asked me a few very deep questions and really helped me out. So it was a few very wise people on very wise spiritual type retreats that really helped me. Which again reminded me that it's personal development that I'm really passionate about, because these guys inspire me the most now.
Yeah. So what would you say to yourself now if you was on your deathbed? Let's fast forward though. So like you're 120 years old, you're on your deathbed. What would you say to yourself?
120 I'd be happy with.
Exactly, right? So what you like, what would you say to yourself if future you came back to you now today?
Today, well, it's a funny one that I'm not sure. I just know that I think when everything falls apart, sometimes on the journey, I've struggled with a bit of nihilism. You know, I've struggled with a bit of, what is the meaning of everything if we're all going to die anyway? You know, what is the meaning of me writing a book if it's going to be forgotten? What is the meaning of me building this YouTube channel if it's all going to go? And that sounds a bit weird and nihilistic, but the more I've actually lent into that, the more powerful it's been in a good way. And so I do find a lot of meaning in it now. And I think that if I'm going to be here and do one thing with my life, then I want to look back and I would want to be proud. I would just want to look back and know that I did my best and that I was proud of the work that I did. I was proud of the person that I became, and I was proud of the change. It's that cheesy thing, isn't it, of leaving it a little bit better, you know. And I love the ikigai thing.
Yeah.
You know, the ikigai.
Yeah.
I ran that by on the Vocal Coach Life Coach. And so, but the main thing there with that is, you know, how can I really serve the world the best? Does the world need another vocal coach? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. Was I good? Yeah, I got booked out and stuff. But does the world need a guy who's got a bag to be out there, to taking his top off, to climbing Kilimanjaro, which I might be doing next year, hopefully? Yeah, the world needs that guy a bit more. So it's just that it's that I was proud of what I tried to do, even if I didn't fully achieve it.
Nice. Well, I love the thought process as well behind that, that led to your decision. I think it's beautiful. I'd love for you to tell us, Chris, like in those real harder moments, how did you deal with those?
Well, when things get really, really tough, it's funny because you should have a team around you if possible. I talked about this in one of my YouTube videos where I said that, you know, when people talk about mental health, it's the same as physical health in terms of, I just think of it as like lifting weights. And if right now Jonathan could bench press 100 keys, probably could. But if it got to 150, maybe he couldn't do it. And then you're shouting at him, Charlotte, like, come on, Jonathan, lift it, lift it, lift it. But what was if he actually can't do it? He can't lift that weight. But it's the same with mental health, but we can't see it. So when things get really bad within your mindset, because the external world's bad as well, you may only have the mental capacity to lift 100 keys of really traumatic shit that's going on. But if there's people around you, like a doctor could help you lift 20 keys, your mum and dad are lifting 20 keys, and then suddenly you can get through. It's the same thing. But also, paradoxically to that, I think that when it's the worst moments, you're actually on your own. Like, that's the funny thing, which no one likes to hear. But really, when it's the darkest moments, like when you're there at 2 a.m. and you can't walk to the toilet, or my bag's leaked and I've just shat literally right in front of me all over my stomach, and I feel disgusted and I'm crying. Some of them are really tough, and you're just completely on your own. I think what helped me was that I didn't have a choice. I felt like I didn't have a choice. It's almost like if you have a choice, then I think you can choose to maybe survive or maybe not. But if you're at the point where you don't have a choice, then something switches in you. I think there's something evolutionary, genetically, I'm not sure, but there's some switch, there's some programming that happens where you just go on like red alert. You just go on focus mode and you just get through. So it's funny, just as an example here, before I got told I had the ileostomy bag for the rest of my life, I didn't really like it. But when it was definitely told to me that I was definitely going to have it for the rest of my life, and there was no more, maybe it's going to work out, maybe it's not, I had to quickly switch around because that's it anyway. So at that point, I started to love it a bit more, and I started to be a lot more at peace with it because I realized that this is the only choice anyway, so I have to accept it.
Beautiful. What you just kind of said there, just takes me back to that kind of whole perception of mind. Is I think it's so powerful. One thing we don't realize is how powerful our perceptions are of how we perceive the world, how we perceive what's happening to us or for us. And I think your story is just a powerful case of that. Is what you've gone through, and other people in the world have gone through some really traumatic experiences. But some people have kind of not been able to come out of that and let that weigh on them, and their mindset is just everything of doom and gloom and nothing's going to get better. But you obviously managed to switch that perception around to start thinking of what you're going through as a gift, as something that's happened for you, something to make you stronger and more resilient for that. So I'd love to use kind of your opinion on the whole mindset, the whole perception of what goes on in our lives as individuals, and how powerful that is when we are going through these hard times.
Well, when you're actually going through the hard time, you're in survival mode and you're not journaling, planning, meditating, anything like that. Or certainly I wasn't. You're in the red, you're in the survival mode, and there's a switch that happens. I heard a life coach once saying that you are built to survive. And there's a switch that happens of human survival. You know, if you've ever been attacked or whatever, you just switch a bit. So in that moment, you're just on automatic. But when you get out of the hospital, the mindset can be healing, and it takes time. But then, yes, you can reflect on, okay, like just to share some practical things, you could write down all the things that you believe just happened to you in hospital. Like, I got an ileostomy bag, I'm really ill, I can't do this, I haven't got energy. And then you could try and flip them around to say, okay, what good came out of this situation? Okay, I've learned who my true friends were. I feel like I am stronger as a person. And sometimes you're fishing, it's like rough. It's like, maybe I could, share my story at some point to inspire others, or, maybe I can find this new career. And sometimes you have to dig, because your identity, actually, it's a good point to mention my name, really shifts through those massive traumatic moments. And, when people say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I think it's true up to a certain point. So we want a bit of trauma, but not too much. Because if it's too much, it's too traumatizing. The system will shut down, and that's when suicide happens. You know, when you can't see a way out. So I like to think of it as a video game, which is that if you play the video game of life on easy or medium difficulty, and you have an easy or medium type difficult life wandering around, you're not that good a player. But if you play on hard, especially if it's a choice, then but even if it's not, you have to be a better player to get through the game. You have to have more skills to get through the game, and you have to become more efficient in what you're doing, or else you're just not going to get through. But obviously, if the game feels like it's too hard, you're going to give up and game over. And that's suicide, when someone just thinks, this is just too hard. But certainly, if you can be edging around the slightly hard difficulty, you can appreciate that it will make you a stronger, better person. But honestly, it's a long journey. And I went to life coaches and spiritual coaches, and it's a whole mix of stuff. It's belief systems, it's rewiring the story. One other practical example I want to say now is I changed my name. So when I was a singer, I was Chris Mitchell. And when I came out the health, I was Christopher David Mitchell. Now, it's not that that wasn't my name before. It was my middle name and the longer version. But sometimes tricks like that can just give you a feeling of a fresh start, give you a sense of that new identity, and allow you to step into new identity. Because really quickly, I think when I see people suffering, it's when they're trying to latch on to their old self and live their old life that they had. So if I still latched on to the dreams of being a singer and going on a cruise ship, it just wasn't going to happen with the state I was in. And being able to embrace that. And sometimes a little ego identity shift, for me, it helped anyway. Don't want to get too attached to that, but it can sometimes just stick you on that fresh chapter.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you mentioned that. It's interesting you mentioned JP earlier as well, because one of the tools that he teaches is the dying to myself exercise, where you literally do look at, okay, well, who is it I am becoming, which is usually your more authentic self, right? It's like, who am I becoming? Okay, to become that, what part of me needs to die, right? Yeah. And then you literally almost end up having a bit of a ceremony about, okay, well, goodbye. And you really do just kind of cut that cord, and you kind of launch yourself into who it is you wish to become, or who it is you really are. And it's so frigging powerful.
And that's why people don't want to change, because like, say, change is hard. No, change is so hard because literally part of you is dying. The ego and identity. And if you upgrade if you change the software on your phone to 11.2 to 11.3, you can't go back. You know what I mean? It's a nightmare to jailbreak the phones and go back in the software, and it's the same. And it is tough. And like, you know, even I'm still finding it tough sometimes, because I'm like, oh God, the more personal development I do, or this, that, and the other, like, you know, your friends change all the time and everything's constant. It is emotionally difficult to keep changing. But if you value growth and you value personal development and you value self-actualization, then you owe it to yourself. But it's not as easy as staying put in the short term.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because it's at that moment in time, it feels safer to stay where you are than sometimes taking that leap of faith right into the new or into the unknown sometimes. But that's really an illusion, right? Because actually there's something within you that isn't settled. There's something within you that is trying to move, right? To evolve in one way or another. So I think it's really important to try and at least reflect and look at, okay, am I living in an illusion? Is it actually harder to stay here than it is to go there? Because like I was living in that illusion for a long time, and I didn't even know I was living in that illusion until somebody said, really? Is it really harder to do that than it is to stay how you're feeling now? And I'm like, oh shit, yeah, okay, all right. you got me. So well, I'm curious to know your thoughts on that.
What, the how hard it is to change, and if it's easier to stay put?
Exactly, yeah.
It's that thing of, if you do the easy things now, life gets harder down the road, and you do the harder things now, life gets easier down the road. It's that truth of, you know, the easy thing to do in life is just chase dopamine hits, and everything's so accessible, isn't it? You know, we can just sit around and there's endless videos, there's endless everything. It's hard to sit down and write a chapter of your own book. It's sometimes hard to do a YouTube video. You know, it's not all bliss. I've actually slightly argued with JP on this one, because sometimes he puts out such a great message of how it all flows like easy, and I'm like, man, it's just not sometimes. And from who I've spoken to, I think it's quite normal and natural. And I just think that when you're trying to make big change in your life, we just get that ego backlash. That ego backlash, as it's called, which is the sense of identity. And you should expect that. So expect to be in a bit of a rut at times, expect to be a bit doubting yourself and lazy. It's basically that thing of your ego is trying to keep you in like a center.
Yeah.
So if you go off out, you know, bearing all with taking your top off in a YouTube video, shifting everything, it will try and drag you back. It will try. So you'll feel that self-sabotage. And I expect it now. So the next big change I make, I'm going to be like, come on, self-sabotage, where you at?
Yeah.
Where's the doubts? Where's the stories? Where's the alcohol days coming? Like, because they do come for me, because and I've learned to just feel that that's expected, and it's a sign of growth rather than like worrying about it. But no, the ego backlash is real.
Absolutely. It's just so aligned and agree with what you said. It's when people are class themselves as lazy or not doing anything, it's something to do with that. It's those resistances that come up. It's that ego is putting you back into your comfort zone. And like you said, it's normal. And if people can realize to stop fighting it and to stop judging it and criticizing it and start to see it's a natural part of our growth process, and see it and approach it with compassion and kindness.
Exactly.
And start to see, oh, like you said, oh, here it's coming up again. It's trying to pull me back. Okay, I accept you. I see you. Thank you for teaching me this lesson. But I'm choosing to lean more into the person I'm becoming.
Yeah.
So you're not fighting, go, oh, bloody hell, this feeling's come up again. I don't like it. It's trying to keep me back in here, trying to make me watch Netflix. I don't like this. It's horrible. It feels like crap.
Yeah.
And you're really trying to resist and fight against it instead of just accepting it and knowing that, like you said, it's normal. It is a normal part. And the more you accept it and the more you can kind of approach it with compassion, the easier it becomes to just kind of let that feeling go and just start to move yourself into that growth part, the bit that is uncomfortable, and it becomes a bit more comfortable.
Exactly. And again, to be expected from an evolutionary standpoint, because when we were back in tribes, the equivalent of me going off, doing my own thing, different to what the tribe says, and I'm ousted, I'll probably die.
Yeah.
I'm on my own out there, I'll probably die, especially if I was a woman. It's a lot harder. But still, as a man, I'd probably die. So what's the modern day equivalent of that? I'm going to go off, tell my complete story, take my top off in front of like millions of people and do my own thing. So like part of the program is like, you're going to die. Like if you do that, but in a way, like, you know, and, but we have to realize that the sort of monkey brain, reptilian brain, will play tricks on us, but actually in most situations, we're not going to die, or nothing terrible or that terrible is going to happen. So yeah, you got to be prepared for that along the journey. It's that thing of like, it's personal development journey is like one big cold shower. In terms of, if you go for the dopamine hit first, like the pleasure, like the sex or the recognition or the alcohol, you feels great in the moment, but then after it's worse, and the spiral is going that way, up, down, need another one, down, and then you go lower every time. But if you actually go for the hard thing and you dip first, cold shower doesn't feel good, then you spike upwards. Muscles don't feel good when doing it at the gym, then you go upwards. Resilience doesn't feel good because it's a mentally tough thing, but then you go upwards. So you're actually you go for the dip and then you go up more. You go for the dip and you go up more that way, as my fish hand. So it's realizing that, but that's counterintuitive because most people are just thinking, well, I just need the next spike, whereas actually you need the next downward hit to propel you upwards.
Yeah.
You need, you need that hit of stress. You need that stress response initially at the beginning to help you grow. And I think that's where people get it wrong, or they're told that you shouldn't feel like that. everything should feel great. Everything should feel wonderful, rainbows and sunshine, all this stuff. But you need stress, but healthy stress to help you grow. Like that's that healthy stress that you said. Lean into the uncomfortable stuff. Activate that stress response, that excitement, and then once you've kind of tapped into that, the easy stuff becomes, you start flowing more and you start tapping into that sense of lightness and flowing and dopamine. But I think people start to realize that stress is a good thing and an unhealthy. It can be unhealthy and unhealthy. By tapping into quick dopamine hits like binging Netflix, going straight for alcohol when you feel like you've had a stressful day, that's an unhealthy response to stress. Whereas if you're tapping in, okay, I've had a rough day at work, I've got home, what are my choices? Alcohol or maybe gym, breath work, meditate, whatever that is. What's going to be better for me, but it's going to feel uncomfortable at the start. It's that. But then afterwards, I feel great. Whereas like you said, exactly the opposite is, I need that beer, or I need that glass of wine. You feel great while you're drinking it, and then after you feel worse. Crap. And it's finding that balance and knowing that it's okay to put yourself in stress sometimes when it serves you to grow and basically fight and how to become more resilient of what you're doing and becoming who you are. So it's just understanding that difference and really knowing that you've got those both sides of the pendulum. Is you've got the unhealthy, you've got the healthy, and sometimes you need the balance in the middle. Sometimes you need that healthy stress. Sometimes when you're experiencing that unhealthy stress, is knowing, like you said, in that moment, is how to bring yourself back into balance again.
Yeah, so true.
Because I think some people go from, I feel like crap. I'm like, you've got all this unhealthy stress going on. They don't actually know what it means. But then the advice is go completely to the opposite end. Yeah. But it doesn't work like that. We need to come to balance first before we make that conscious choice and that resourceful choice to then do something that serves us. Yeah. It's like if you had a really bad night's sleep, you wake up in the morning and I feel crap. I don't want to do the stuff that's good for me. I don't want to do the stuff that serves me. I'm gonna lay in bed and scroll on my phone instead. And then you think, no, I need to go to the gym. I need to do an hour meditation. That's going from one extreme to the next without anything in the middle. Whereas the balance could be, okay, no, I'm not going to scroll on my phone. First step, I'm going to get out of bed. That's my first step. I'm just going to get out of bed and move my body a little bit. That's starting to bring that back into balance, just taking small little things. And once you're in that, come back into balance, then you can say, okay, what's next? And then you start to make those small steps into that other side where you're thinking, okay, now I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do my breath work. I'm going to do my ice bath. I'm going to do my journaling, whatever that is for you. It's about not swinging from one extreme to the next, because then that was you before, all or nothing mentality, and that creates so much problem, so much turmoil and trauma within your life as well, when you get burnt out so quick doing that.
And it's so funny you mention that, because that's exactly where I was when I came out of hospital. And now, like, the answer, if I have to answer every single question with one word, it would just be balance.
Nice.
I've yet to figure out a question in my own head. I've pondered on this for like months, that the answer's not balance. In the end, I've like tried to think of every single one. You can try one on me now, but I'm sure I can get it back. But so when you live in a normal life, like, so before me in hospital, say I'm there, but the traumatic time will create those extremes, the polarities, because I describe it now as like I was held back for 4 years on the sidelines of life in a very extreme way, like extreme, like not much socializing, or not many relationships, or no recognition, or no career success. So when I came out of hospital, what did I do? Did I go from 4 years here to a beautifully balanced center? No, but also I don't think it should be. I think the ego needs a little bit of like, right, I'm going to make it. I'm going to be the successful person. F you to the ex-girlfriend. F you to the friend who wasn't there. You know, it was there. Like, I want to be someone again. I want to make some money again. I want to do something again. I want to start living life again. And it was actually quite unhealthy the way I built up the vocal coaching, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take the trauma fuel, I'll call it. Yeah. Trauma fuel got me there, and trauma fuel gets a lot of people there.
Yeah.
But what happens is, once you've run out of trauma fuel, which is what I did, then I've had to spend the last year, I'd say, coming back to balance. Because now my motivation for the trauma fuel's gone. I can't be motivated by, I'll show you. I can't hold on to that anymore, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
So then it's replacing the negative trauma fuel with like a positive thing that you're going towards. But yeah, expect that imbalance if someone's going through a really traumatic time, because you'll naturally probably go to the other extreme for a bit and then you'll realize.
Oh, that shock response, really.
Yeah.
Going from one
Yeah.
next extreme. You need that kind of kickstart to push you and then go, okay, now I can find my balance point.
Also, your nervous system can't tolerate those extremes for so long. So even if you wanted to keep going on that trauma fuel or the fuck you fuel, if you want to be going on that, like, it's not sustainable. Over the long term, you will burn out. So I think balance is key, like you said.
I agree. But you do look at a lot of the people who've done really well. Like one of my favorite books, Ryan Holiday's Obstacle is the Way, was a great book. And he references a lot of people in that book who are doing well and being successful from the obstacles. But now that I reread it, I'm not sure they are very successful because they're running on trauma fuel.
Yeah.
It's like, is Tiger Woods really successful, or was he running on trauma fuel?
Yeah.
You know, getting called names and you're a little, you know, the N word and things like that.
Yeah.
He was running on trauma fuel. He was, you know, Michael Jackson was running on trauma fuel. You know, a lot of them, you know, a lot of the famous actors, musicians, a lot of them are. And to let go of that is really difficult because, and initially that you're going to lose motivation. You know, so it's really hard to rewire that. That took me about 6 months to a year to let go of that energy.
Yeah, because there's life after all of that, right? As well, that's the thing. Like, that took you to, you know, thriving as a vocal coach, but did it bring you the level of wholeness and fulfillment that you was clearly probably looking for based on what you've shared? And that's then when you become really wealthy, isn't it? Is when you get to bring that back, and now you get to go to that next level, like you mentioned earlier. So there's a ceiling.
Exactly. It wasn't right, but a necessary step of the journey, I'd say. It's like when people make money and then they go, oh, it's not about money, but it was a necessary step of the journey. Now it's all about meditation. Well, it's all right to say that now, but you have to sort that stuff out. So it's great that I'm, again, not blaming or being hard on myself for openly saying I went to the other extreme, because I think it feels very natural. It felt very natural, and now rebalancing it, and hopefully living a more balanced life, which I didn't do because I wasn't, you know, I was very determined.
I think that is just so key. What you said there, for anyone listening, is you didn't feel bad about going to that extreme. And I think for anyone listening, is like, there is no right or wrong way for your journey as an individual, whether it's coming from a traumatic event, whether it's minor, extreme, whatever that is for you. Whatever you go through, whatever happens, it happens because it's meant to happen. Whether you go from one extreme to the next to start with and you find your balance, it's important that you understand there's no one way for everyone. And like, you could be listening to that and going, oh, okay, but I didn't go from one extreme to the next. I managed to fight. Did I do something wrong? No, it's whatever comes up in your journey is meant to come up for you. And there's no generic kind of blueprint for every single person. And I think as everyone can realize that, then they stop judging themselves and thinking, am I doing something wrong because I'm not here? Or is something not going right? Have I made the wrong choice because I'm not where I want to be? It's like, you've just got to realize that where you are now is where you're meant to be. And as long as you're constantly, again, questioning things, you're asking yourself those questions and finding out who you are and actually leaning into becoming who you are, then then the next day you're going to be where you need to be, and so on until eventually you get to where whatever years you're creating. And that could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 10 years. It's different for every single person. So I think if we could get rid of that judgment, that criticism, and start to accept where we are now, and then obviously have that plan where we want to go, and understand that it's a very individualistic journey for everyone. I think people stop really doubting themselves and bringing themselves into those kind of depressive moments where they're not where they want to be in the time frame they want to be in.
Awareness.
And again,
go
on. No,
I
go for it,
was
Charles.
just going to say awareness is key, isn't it? Because you need to know if you're swinging.
Yeah.
You need to know, you know, you need to have an awareness of what questions are showing up for you to be able to actually navigate that. So whether you're swinging in life or not, I think that level of awareness is just vital to be able to navigate it, and that's going to be different for everyone as well.
And again, the final answer is balance. How do you balance being happy with who you are today, versus waiting to being happy to the person you're going to become? Because sometimes for me, if I'm like, I'm completely happy with where I am today, I feel like I lose a little bit of motivation to
I'm
get
exactly the same. Yeah.
So when all the spiritual teachers sometimes say, just be really happy with where you are now, I'm like, but then I feel like I'll just stagnate. I can't be 100% happy with where I'm at now, or why bother? If all, behavior is we feel like all behavior is going to make us slightly happier in some way, shape, or form, but then you don't want to be too hard on yourself, like the Tiger Woods thing, where he's not happy if he's second, he's not happy if he's third, he's not happy if he's fourth. Michael Jordan, the same. They didn't finish second, the Chicago Bulls, and be like, oh, so happy where we are on the journey. It wasn't like that. So it's balancing, putting your happiness in the future and putting your happiness in the present. And again, that took me about 6 months. Everything took me about 6 months to find, okay, I can be appreciative, I can be grateful, I can be sort of journaling about where I'm at and where I'm happy, but also there's always a next level. There's always a next level. There's always a next level of consciousness. There's always a next level that you can get to. And that doesn't mean more money. That means probably the next level of self-actualization, or the model I love, spiral dynamics.
Yeah. And that's where it becomes so exciting, I think, because there's probably a whole bunch of emotions and different experiences we're yet to have. So think you're happy now, you think that you're experiencing peace now, but it's very, very different when you're then on a trip on ayahuasca,
if I
for
say
example.
to you now, like, what's going to make you happy, Charlotte? You're going from, like, let's call it level 6 in life.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? There's infinite levels, but you are going to answer based on your paradigm, worldview, everything. You have no idea what that might look like in 20 years' time. If I asked you the same question, you couldn't even comprehend what happiness is to maybe a yogi like Sadhguru or something like that, a stage turquoise and spiral dynamics yogi. So when the question is like, will X make you happy? Well, it depends where you're at in life. Because if you're a kid, maybe it's a lollipop. If you're a teenager, maybe it's sex. If you're an adult, maybe it's money. And if you're an older adult, maybe it's purpose and giving back. It's always going to be evolving and changing. So, and that's the thing. And that's what you should look back on, just to sum up. If someone goes through a trauma, back to resilience, back to a difficult time, write down how you've changed on the journey and the person you became, not externally, but internally. So externally, you could say, oh yeah, I've changed so much because I coached Boy George, or I made this money, or I got this many subscribers. No, how did you change internally as a person? Like with your internal skills of like kindness, empathy, resilience, awareness, growth, write all that down. And that's the way you can do it. I want to ask you guys a question though before we go. In that, what would you have told? Because I want to put this out to my channel and subscribers, and a lot of them do have autoimmune disorders and IBD. So I guess my question would be: you guys are the stress guys, the expert stress guys. What would you have said to, say I was pre-surgery, and say I was going through all that, and the autoimmune disease was there, and what would you have said to either me before that operation if I came to you as a client, or say all my viewers who are listening who've got IBD, who are not in a good place, and maybe they're stressed about it? What is the keys that you could sort of, keys of wisdom for my audience who might be suffering from autoimmune diseases and getting in a stressful state about that?
I think the first thing to recognize is that, when you're already experiencing a lot of physical stress and then you attach even more stress to it, so your stress then is fueling even more stress, you're already setting yourself up for more stress, more turmoil, more struggle, longer healing processes. All of those things become compromised. So it's essential that as hard as it is that we start to lean into anything that can help us to bring our system down, bring our system into that relaxed response as much as possible, because that's going to be the thing that's going to leverage everything else. That's the thing that's going to help with the quality of your thinking, your perceptions, your ability to then feel your emotions. Because if we are in that primal survival mode, I'm going in for surgery, my life's over, everything's changing, I've lost my friends, I've lost my income, all of that kind of stuff, if that's going on and somebody just says, okay, we'll just think positively, it'll all be okay, that's all well and good, right? Because it's coming from a good intention. But if your body and your system is in that heightened stress response, that's going to mean nothing to you, right? Yeah. So I think that's probably the first thing I would have said, with obviously compassion, because nobody can, even if you've been through the exact same experience, you've got the exact same condition or disease or operation coming up, it's still such a unique personal experience of what's happening. So it's just a case of being understanding, let them know they're not alone.
Yeah.
It's just having, I think it's also then coming back to that connection between our whole being, and it's that connection between the mind body that is important as well when it comes to healing ourselves. And that it's a perception of our thoughts. Like Charlotte said, if you're going in, if something's happening to you and you're then compounding that by the thoughts that are running through your head, the feelings that are coming up, you like increase inflammation in your body, which increases your stress response, which when that happens, your body cannot heal itself. It cannot come down. Everything becomes into like red alert zone. So everything you put into your body, food, liquids, thoughts, emotions, everything becomes a bit more toxic. And the longer we hold on to all that thought, it becomes even more toxic. It's stuck within our body. So, for example, I could take a physical example of food. If we're in that stress state and we're going through that story in our head of, oh, I've got to go for surgery, this is happening, what if something happens, what if something goes wrong, and we're building up that kind of toxicity within our body, at the same time of anything coming into our body, whether it's air, food, water, other drinks, whatever it is, our body can't tell the difference between what's a threat and what's not. So based on that thing, where everything that's coming into our body, it classes as a threat, so it attacks it, including our own cells as well. So, like Charlotte said, by bringing our nervous system down, our autonomic nervous system, and tapping into that rest and digest, which you can do through journaling, through breath work, just through just conscious breathing, is slowing your breath down. That is, for me, that's the number one thing I'll say to anyone. It's the one thing you have with you all the time. It's completely free. And it's the quickest way to change your state, is to just slow, deep belly breaths will help to switch that stress response off and help you tap into that rest and digest. Just slow, deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And that will help to switch the nervous system into a more resourceful state, to be able to deal with the thoughts, the emotions, the inflammation in your body that's accumulated from the illness you're experiencing, but also the thoughts you're thinking, the feelings you're feeling, all this stuff. So it's a combination, like what Charlotte said, but from a physical perspective as well, is understanding that you've got to breathe. Breathing is the gateway to every system in our body. And usually if you look at the research and that on a lot of illnesses, a lot of diseases, it comes back to a chronic inflammation in the body where we're constantly in that state of fight or flight for too long. And our body is not in any resourceful state to deal with that. It's constantly just attacking everything. So we've got to get that nervous system down. We've got to calm it down through using our breath, through even how we eat, how we be staying hydrated as from a physical perspective, but also changing our perception of our thoughts is, which I know is hard in that moment. It's definitely difficult, but it's what's going to help calm the nervous system down. It's, for me, like I had IBS, which is a very minor form of IBD. Like I suffered that for a few years, and that got worse with stress. Obviously, the more stress I had, the worse it got, the more debilitating it got. And then the same with my chronic back pain. The more stressed and angry I got, the worse it got, to the point where I'd affect my vision. I wouldn't be able to see clearly. And it wasn't until I started to learn that connection between how I think, how I feel, and how my body actually functions, where I started to tap into that nervous system and started to help bring it down and just see the calming effects that has on the body.
I just really add to that, like, so for sure it's like breathing for all the reasons we've just mentioned, and then allowing yourself to feel whatever you're feeling. Often a lot of issues then come because we're trying to put on a brave face for everybody else or even for ourselves, and that actually does the opposite of really what it is then we're looking for. So breathe, allow yourself to feel whatever emotion you're feeling, and then, this is going to sound weird, but laugh. Right? Literally find something to laugh at. The best gift you can give to anybody who is struggling from stress, from physical issues in hospital or otherwise, help them to laugh, because that immediately puts their nervous system right where it needs to be. You get these beautiful dopamine hit. You're just breaking that pattern. You're breaking that space that they're in, whether that be mentally, physically, or emotionally. And from there, everything else can become a little bit lighter, just a little bit, or even a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I'll have to invite you guys to connect with my community and do a little session with them and stuff. So yeah,
I'll be honored to.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Really amazing. Yeah, and I totally agree. And it sort of just reminds me, just for I finish, it goes back to that thing we were saying about dipping through a slightly bad patch in order for it to get better. It's like at one point the journey is dipping into the emotion, but it might be rough, it might be embarrassment, it might be shame, in order to sort of like then zip through that and release it. And that's the place that people don't want to go. And probably what you were saying, like, oh, I just feel fine, I just feel positive, just think positive. But if that's not true, it first might be, let me just feel what it feels like. Oh, it's uncomfortable, and then it's out, like then the zit's out.
Definitely.
Because otherwise you're just creating more conflict inside. There's enough conflict going on inside already. The last thing we want to do is pretend that everything's perfect or going to be, sunshine and rainbows. You want to be real. You have to be real.
Exactly.
Otherwise you're going to create more pain down the line.
Yeah, so true.
Amazing. So Chris, any other words of wisdom before we wrap this up?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I think I've said most of my things in terms of what I would do again with traumatic situations. Words of wisdom. Last word of wisdom would be trust your intuition on the journey. And actually, I would say don't listen to anyone else. That sounds really bad, doesn't it?
No, it's perfect.
It's not really PC to say that, is it?
We say that all the time.
We say that all the time.
Yeah. Oh, right. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Purely because,
but you know what I mean? It sounds a bit, even me saying it sounds a bit like, I can't believe I said that, but it's true. I sort of don't, it's not that I sort of don't appreciate other people's opinions, but I don't really listen to anyone else.
It's good to learn, right?
Yeah.
But
it's good to,
but then you need to come back home first.
Exactly.
But
right?
some of them big decisions, they have to come from you. They have to come from your intuition. Sit and meditate for an hour and then think about it. Maybe do a plant medicine, then think about it. Maybe breathe for an hour and then think about it. But be really careful. Think about how people lived their lives 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And that was the way you were meant to live. People will be saying that in 100 years' time, 50 years' time. They'll be saying, do you remember them guys and what they did? And they worked 5 days a week and they did this and they all thought, oh God, I'll keep, and they'll laugh at us. But we don't see it like that, do we? Because we like to think that we're always more evolved. But so whatever it is now, trust that intuition, because it might be that you're just 50 years ahead of the curve.
I like that.
Love it.
Definitely words of wisdom.
Definitely. So, that's awesome. So we will, obviously, anyone listening, we'll put all of the links in the show notes for where you can find Christopher. Also the link to his story on YouTube. Definitely go check it out. Obviously, you've already heard a lot of it today, but just the music and the video and everything else it's got there, it's really gonna kind of connect with your heart on that one as well. So definitely go check it out. It is absolutely amazing. But thank you so much, Christopher, for this conversation today. It's been absolutely amazing speaking to you.
No,
thank you.
I've really loved it. I'm going to share this with my community and maybe we'll do something together in the future. And thank you so much. And definitely some more inspirational videos coming soon. I'm ready now. I'm in balance and I'm ready to go forward with my new fuel, my good fuel. But yeah, pleasure speaking with you guys. I'll share it out and yeah, keep doing the brilliant work you're doing.
Amazing,
Thank
Andrew.
you.
Thank you.